sorts of reasons why the text gets misread, and no doubt people will say this about me, and that's fine. You know, we all live in our own context. We all see the world through our own spectacles. What's happened the last 200 years is that we've lived in a worldview, call it the Enlightenment worldview if you like, which has insisted that that God and the world are a long way away from one another, that God is up in heaven and we are down on earth, if indeed God exists, the Enlightenment might say. And then we have a sort of artificially bright light on facts, on events in history, whereas most other worldviews have a much more fluid and messy interrelationship between God and the world. And learning how to navigate that fluid, messy relationship between God and the world, it seems to me, is part of learning how to read the Bible. But if instead you say, no, God just did it, and then he sort of went away, and then from time to time he steps in and does a miracle, or he becomes incarnate, you're still living with this idea of God and the world being separate. And then when you have God and the world being separate, with occasionally God intervening or not, as the case may be, then you encourage people who say, well, God may have made this show in the first place, but actually then this just runs on its own steam thereafter. And that's part of an ancient philosophy called Epicureanism. There's an ancient writer called Lucretius who wrote a long, wonderful poem about this. And once you've got God out of the scene, then of course you have some sort of evolution. And it's quite extraordinary to me that people imagine now that evolution is something which 19th century science discovered. It's simply the corollary of one particular ancient worldview, which some people in the 18th century rather liked, and so it had political usefulness as well, actually. So I think there's all sorts of reasons why then people come back at it and say, no, it must have happened, it can't be that. But they're reacting within a particular worldview. And one of the things I would love to see is people taking seriously the fact that we all do have a worldview. Our culture gives us a worldview, but that sooner or later it's possible to take your spectacles off, clean them, maybe even adjust the lenses so that you can then see things more clearly.